In August 2023, a tragic event unfolded in Ohio that shook the community. Police in Blendon Township, a suburb of Columbus, released body cam footage that revealed a heart-wrenching incident. It involved the fatal shooting of Takaya Young, a 21-year-old pregnant black woman. The dreadful incident occurred on August 24th when Takaya was in her car outside a Kroger grocery store. Officers were there to question her for alleged shoplifting. The body cam video, released on Friday, provides a chilling account of what happened next. In the footage, you can see officers attempting to engage in a conversation with Miss Young, who is sitting in her car. One officer stands in front of her vehicle. As she appears to drive in his direction, he fires a shot directly towards her. The video captures a tense exchange between the officers and Miss Young, lasting about a minute before the shot is fired. The officer at her door repeatedly tells her to get out of the car, to which she responds, "For what?" and firmly states, "I'm not going to do that." Meanwhile, another officer, standing in front of her car, has his left hand on the car's bonnet and a gun drawn in his other hand. Takaya asks, "Are you going to shoot me?" Just moments before a single shot is fired. The officer swiftly moves out of the car's path as the shot is fired. Following the gunshot, officers are seen breaking her car window as it rolls into a brick wall near the store's entrance. Attempts were made to provide medical aid, but tragically, neither Takaya nor her unborn child survived the shooting. Blendon Police Chief John Belford acknowledged the tragedy and expressed condolences to Takaya's grieving family. Both officers involved, who haven't been identified, were in the parking lot for an unrelated call at the time of the incident. They were placed on administrative leave afterward. The officer of the car window has since returned to duty, but the one who fired the fatal shot remains on leave. The video was shared with Takaya Young's family before being released to the public. In the statement, the family described the shooting as a clearly criminal act that could have been avoided. In response, the Blendon Township Police Department has requested the Ohio Attorney General's Bureau of Criminal Investigation to conduct an inquiry into the tragic shooting. On a quiet morning on July 28, 2010, around 5:30 a.m., on West 10th Street in the Flats, a residential building became the stage for a daring break-in, something straight out of a movie. Two individuals with criminal intent managed to sneak into the apartment building, possibly by climbing a tree in front of it. Then, they accessed the balcony and forced open the balcony doors, gaining entry. Once inside, they realized the tenant of the apartment was peacefully sleeping, unaware of their presence. Instead of making a quick escape, they decided to explore further. Their eyes fell upon a black leather gym bag, and without hesitation, they took possession of it. But their thievery didn't stop there. They proceeded to fill their bag with various items from the apartment. Their luck seemed to grow when they stumbled upon the owner's car keys. Now, they had control over more than just stolen belongings. Security cameras within the apartment building recorded their every move. As they exited a stairwell and went into the parking garage, they suddenly realized they were under surveillance. Despite their initial fright, they pressed forward with their mission. Eventually, they located the owner's black Jeep Cherokee. After some confusion about how to open the garage door, they successfully made their escape. The stolen vehicle, a 2008 black Jeep Cherokee, was later discovered near East 43rd Street off Cedar Avenue. Describing the suspects, they appeared to be two young black males, roughly 18 to 20 years old, standing between 5 feet 8 inches to 5 feet 10 inches tall, weighing around 180 pounds. In the video footage, one of them had a very short haircut, almost balding, while the other had a stockier build with slightly more hair and notably no facial hair. In the year 2022, something quite unusual unfolded in Cincinnati and parts of Indiana. people began reporting sightings of what they've dubbed zombie deer. Now, before you imagine creatures out for an early Halloween trick-or-treat or craving human flesh, let's delve into the real story. These zombie deer have been showing up in places like Coleraine Township in Hamilton County, Cincinnati, and even parts of Indiana. The Coleraine Township police officers had their encounter with one of these peculiar deer. When they arrived at the scene on Blue Rock Road, what they saw was baffling. The deer was standing there, seemingly lost in thought. Oddly, it paid no attention to the blaring sirens or the officers shouting at it. To make things even stranger, it had patches of fur with discolored skin. According to a warden from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, the west side of Cincinnati was experiencing an increase in these zombie deer. These creatures were suffering from a condition known as epizootic hemorrhagic disease, EHD. Notably, cases of EHD had also been reported in Indiana. Joe Caudle, a state research biologist, described EHD as a relatively common disease among deer. What's intriguing is that Indiana sees significant EHD outbreaks every 5 to 7 years, with the last major one occurring in 2019. Some counties like Franklin and Dearborn County might witness increased EHD cases a few years after these major outbreaks. Strangely enough, these outbreaks are becoming more frequent, even in states where EHD was not historically common. So, the zombie deer sightings of 2022 might sound alarming, but they are essentially a result of a reoccurring, though unfortunate, natural phenomenon affecting deer populations in the region. It's the early hours of July 28, 2010, around 5:30 a.m., on the peaceful stretch of West 10th Street in Ohio Flats area. What followed would become a troubling incident in history. At the center of this event stood Jadarius Rose, a mere 23-year-old at the time, who would later recount his harrowing experience to NBC News, shedding light on the fear and uncertainty that consumed him that fateful morning. It all started with what appeared to be a routine traffic stop. Rose was at the wheel of a semi-truck when a motor carrier enforcement inspector from the Highway Patrol attempted to pull him over. The reason was a seemingly minor infraction, a missing left rear mud flap. No one could have foreseen the dramatic turn of events that was about to unfold. Instead of complying with the instructions to stop, Rose made a fateful decision to keep driving. With law enforcement officers in hot pursuit, the situation escalated rapidly. Troopers resorted to deploying stop sticks to bring the semi-truck to a halt on U.S. Route 23. As Rose finally pulled over, he informed a trooper that he was on the phone with 911, introducing an added layer of complexity to the situation. Now, here's where the situation took a deeply troubling turn. Jadarius Rose, a young black man who had later revealed that fear had been the driving force behind his actions throughout this encounter. He had been gripped by an overwhelming fear that led him to defy the initial signal to stop his vehicle. The tension in this encounter reached its zenith when Rose, with his hands raised in the universally recognized gesture of surrender, found himself under attack. Body camera footage exposed a Highway Patrol officer urgently shouting, "Do not release the dog," with his hands up. However, despite these pleas, a Circleville police officer named Ryan Speakman released a police dog that viciously attacked Rose. Consequences were swift for Officer Speakman, who was swiftly terminated from the police department due to his actions. But the controversy surrounding this incident did not end there. The Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association lodged objections, contending that Speakman's termination was unjust. This led to the filing of a grievance, further complicating an already contentious situation. Civil rights attorney Ben Crump entered the fray, representing Rose and his family. Crump drew a chilling parallel between this incident and the injustices suffered during the civil rights movement. Rose, on his knees and hands, raised in surrender during the attack, had done everything to convey that he posed no threat. Crumb questioned what more an individual could do to communicate that they meant no harm. Adding to the intensity of the situation, Rose had dialed 911 out of fear that the police might inflict harm upon him. Audio recordings released by the police underscored his apprehension. In one such recording, a dispatcher advised him to roll down his window. Rose's response was nothing short of a bone-chilling, "I did that last time, and all of them had their guns pointed at me. You think I feel safe?" Steele Mansion, a grand old house right in the heart of Lake County, Ohio, has a history that's like something out of a history book with a twist of the mysterious. Built back in 1867, this mansion was meant to be a fancy home for the Steele family. Mr. George Steele and his wife, Sarah, were the first to live there, and they sure made an impression, but their story took a turn. Around 50 years later, life wasn't so kind to the Steele family's finances. They lost their fortune and faced some tough times. But it seems like George and Sarah loved their house too much to leave. At least, that's what they say. Even after they passed away, it's like they hung around, still part of the place. But they weren't alone in this ghostly cohabitation. Down in the basement, there's talk of the giggles of two little boys, like they're still playing games. There's also a ghost dog named Chester, who's been running up and down those stairs for ages. And then there's an Irish maid, but she's from a different time than George and Sarah. She appears as some sort of pale blue blob, a mysterious presence that no one seems to keep watch. When the Shemakian family took over Steele Mansion in 2010, they knew they were inheriting more than just a house. They embraced the ghostly reputation and invited all sorts of people to come in and check things out. They had ghost hunters, psychics, and people who claimed to have special powers, all trying to connect with the spirits who made themselves at home. What makes Steele Mansion special is that it's not a spooky haunted house like in the movies. Instead, there's this positive vibe when you walk in through its restored rooms. The spirits aren't trying to scare anyone. They're more like friendly neighbors who've been around forever. Carol Shemakian, one of the mansion's owners, says they're like long-term residents and that they're just as much a part of the place as anyone else. Over the years, through different owners and even a fire, the Shemakian family worked hard to bring Steele Mansion back to its original glory. It's more than just a house. It's a piece of history where the past and present hang out together.